Welcome csc200 to our ex8. It's our PHP intro using Goorm. Now that we have Goorm all set up, we have PHP MyAdmin all installed, and we have it all ready to go, we're going to start working with it a little bit. And this is the assignment in Unit 8. What you're going to do first is go to Documents and Resources and find the instructions. And here's the instructions right here. And I'll keep them open. And I'll just get started here. It says log into Goorm account, start your container. And every time we go into Goorm and launch our container or run our container, we're going to use these two commands in our terminal, the service MySQL start and the service Apache2 restart, to restart the web server and the database server. So we're going to be doing that. And I have my dashboard open right now, and I'm going to get it started by just clicking on Run.
All of our representatives are currently busy. Please stay on the line, and your call will be answered by the next available representative.
And here it is. It's all ready to go. Our terminal down here. Remember your terminal, you can move this around, and you can even minimize this. There's a little arrow here. You can even put it away if you don't want it, but we're going to keep it open right now. But we are going to work with some files up here, and also in your container folder that you have here, you'll see that you'll have a MySQL start.txt file. That'll have some of the commands in it that you could use. Also, I put in the world.txt file. I also had it in Documents and Resources, but sometimes people have a problem with a text file. I don't know why, but you'd think that'd be the easiest kind of file to just click on and look at. When I click on this, it's just a text file like that, but for some reason some people have problems with it. So I put it in your container. So this is that file inside there, and this is your start text file, and I'm just going to double click on this, and you can open and close these. You could just close this when you're done with it. I'm going to move this down a little bit to see some of these commands here, and also I'm going to go back to my instructions, and it says to use these, and then it says create a new folder, and we're going to make a new file, and then we're going to copy some stuff from W3 Schools. So let's do that first. We're going to go back here, and what you can copy from here is this service MySQL start. You could just highlight it up here and just do Command-C on a Mac or Control-C if you're working on Windows. And then down here, if you're on Windows, do Control-V, or I'll do Command-V for paste, and then just hit Enter. And it should say done. And then we're just going to use this one, the service Apache2 restart. Now, if you memorize these, you could type them in here, but I'm just going to copy and paste them. And then I'll just do that. You won't see anything happen, and we don't have to go into MySQL. I have these things here that say MySQL and how to get out of MySQL. I think you could use exit or quit, but we don't have to go into the MySQL console to get started. We could just have MySQL database server running and the web server running. So that's all we need right now. So as long as these two say done, we're good. Now, we could check things out and make sure everything's okay. Now, just keep in mind that your dashboard kind of stays open here. Once your container is running, you're going to be in this area. What we're going to do next is go in here a little bit. Now, we have the README file. We have the index file. That's just the generic one. If I double click on it, that's just the one that says contents here, hello Goorm. And we don't even really need that, but we're going to make another one that's inside another folder. So we're going to make a new folder. And to do that, let's just close this up. And I'm going to make sure I'm on this folder. Make sure you're on this. And then I'm going to click on New, this little plus sign here. And I'm going to make a new folder. And you can see it's going to be inside the Goorm PHP1. Now mine says 21. Yours could just say Goorm PHP. Now I'm going to make a folder called ex8, lowercase, no capital letters, just called ex8, no spaces, no dashes, and then hit OK. And then inside here you're going to make a file. You could click on here just so you have it selected, and that way when you make a plus here and make a new file, it will go inside that folder. So we're making this folder, and you're on it. It's kind of gray when you're on it, and I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to make a new file. And it's showing that it's going to be inside of there. And we're just going to call it index.php. Now, we do have an index.php over here, but that's in our main container. This is going to be inside a subfolder of ex8. And we just have to remember to go to the ex8 directory when we want to get to this file. So we're just going to call it index.php, and we'll just hit OK. And there it is. Now it opens it up by default and there's nothing there right now. And we're going to put some stuff in here. Now this one, the MySQL start.txt, I could close this, so I don't need it. I didn't have to save and do anything to it. So now you can see this is indented. Now the only thing that's inside of that ex8 folder is this index.php, a different one from this one. And you can see the PHP tags. They have a less than sign, a question mark PHP, and then a question mark, and then a greater than sign to finish up. Now we're going to put some code in there. Now we're not going to learn a whole lot about PHP just yet. We're just going to copy and paste some code. So let's go back to our instructions and just follow along here. We did 3, we created a folder. We did 4, we made index.php. Then we're going to go to W3 schools and we're going to copy some code and we're going to make a PHP file. And then we're going to kind of connect to our database server. So we're going to do that next. So we're going to go to W3 schools. So I'm just going to open a new tab. We're going to have a lot of tabs open. And I'll just type in W3 schools. And it's always pretty easy to navigate in here. We just want to go to not the SQL tutorial. We're not doing SQL right now, even though we sort of are, but we're going into the PHP tutorial. So we're going to go in here and we're going to go scroll down on the left side and look for MySQL database. And we're going to look for MySQL connect because we're going to connect to the database. So remember, this is under PHP, MySQL connect, and we'll click in here. And you could read through some of this and get familiar with it and see why I'm using procedural over object-oriented. They have some articles here on why to do that. We're using procedural because it's more backwards compatible. So that's why I always like to be backwards compatible in everything I do. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to look for MySQLi, not object-oriented. I'm going to look for the procedural one. So I'm going to look for this one, MySQLi. I means improved, procedural. And we're going to use this code. And we could just copy this code right from here. So MySQLi, procedural, copy this code. So just highlight it. And I'll do Command-C. And if you're on Windows, do Control-C. And then we'll go back here. So we're going to be navigating back and forth here. And we're going to highlight this and just replace all this. So we don't have to put it inside these tags. We're just going to replace everything because we do have PHP tags already. So I'm just going to paste right into this index file. And if you need to go a little bigger here, I think you can do Control plus. I'm going to do Command plus since I'm on a Mac, but I'm going to go a little bigger here, make my code a little bit bigger. And you could even minimize this. I don't need this quite yet, so I can minimize that. And this is our PHP. This is the starting PHP tag. This is the closing PHP tag. And also, when you see this blue asterisk, that means it's not saved. And when you save it, it'll have an X there. That means you could just close it and it won't have to save. So you could just do Control S to save, or I'll do Command S. So I'll just do Command S and I'll just save it. And you'll see that asterisk turn into an X. I think they just have a file save you could use as well. And what we're going to do here is we're going to obviously change this code to use what we're using. Now, as far as looking at PHP, you'll see these $ names in red. Now, that's how variables look in PHP. They always have the $ in front. And they have a $ server name, which basically equals localhost. That's our localhost. That's going to stay that way. And then there's username. And our username is going to be, if you remember, for phpMyAdmin, because that's where we're getting to our databases, we're going to use phpMyAdmin, all lowercase, just like we did it originally, and just like we can log into phpMyAdmin. And then for password, we used root. So that's our root. So these are the actual values here. Localhost is our server name, and that's what it typically is, whether we're working even locally or working in the virtual environment. And then phpMyAdmin and root. And these variables are going to represent that. So it's going to run this little function here. And actually the variable is going to represent the function so that we could use the variable instead of the whole function again. So this variable is going to represent the function. It's going to be the connect function. And it's basically connecting using these arguments. They're using the server name, the username, and password. And they're the variables, so it doesn't matter if we could change these and it's using the correct ones here, unless we change the variables for some reason. And notice we're not using a database yet. Eventually we're going to use a database here as well, but we're just connecting to the server. That's all we're doing right now. And the way this works, this is the connection, and then there's an if. It's not really an if-else statement, it's just an if statement, but basically it says if, and this exclamation point means not. So if it doesn't connect, meaning if connection is false, if it doesn't connect, then it's just going to say connection failed, and it's going to give you an error message, whatever the error is. And then if not, it's going to echo. Echo basically just means print out in PHP speak. Echo is like a print kind of statement, kind of like in Python how you have a print statement. So echo is kind of like the print statement. So it's going to echo this string that says connected successfully, or if it doesn't connect, it's going to say connection failed. It's going to concatenate this string, connection failed. And when I say a string, I mean it's in quotes like that. The green is a string. And concatenate means it's just putting it together. Sometimes you'll see plus signs, but in PHP they use a dot. And it's connection failed dot, and then it's going to be whatever the error code is. It'll give you some kind of reason if it doesn't connect. And we could try different things here when we do that. So we updated these things. We updated our PHP myadmin, our root. We could leave it localhost. These things don't have to change. Nothing has to change here. We could change the way this is. We can do an if it does work, it says something, and if not, you could do like an if else with this, but we could leave it like this right now. And I'm just going to save it again, and I'll just do Command S. If you're on Windows, do Control S. And I'm just going to save this file, and it should turn into an X once it's saved. And what we want to do is get to this file and run this file. And what it should do is run all this code, run all this PHP code. So we want to get to this file. So if you remember how we get to our file, a couple things we're going to do here. We can go to Project, Running URL and Port. You remember you created your URL, and the way we actually connect to our URL or see our URL in the browser is using this little button here, which opens it up in a new tab. So I'm going to use that, and I'm just going to click on that. And if I click on this, it's going to go to the main page or the home page inside Goorm Pt1. In other words, but it's going to go to this index page, not the one we just made. It's going to go to the main one that we looked at before. And if I click on here, you'll see it. It'll say like contents here and hello Goorm. That's just like a test page. We don't even really need that because we're not really going to use a home page inside here. We're going to use other directories for exercises that we could work on. So for example, we might have ex8, ex9, whatever we're working on, and that will be inside here. So we'll have another folder name after this /. So right now, this really doesn't help us, but what we want to do, if we click here, right after here, and put ex8, what it should do is go to the first index page inside there. Now remember, index.html or index.php is a home page, and it will naturally go to that page if it's there. So you don't have to specify ex8 / index.php. You just have to put ex8, and by default, it'll go to an index page, either in HTML or PHP. So let's see if this works. I'm just going to put ex8 and hit enter. And it says connected successfully. Now it works, and you can see where it's going. It's going to my URL, and it's going into the container folder, Goorm PHP. Mine has a 21. Yours would just be PHP, Goorm PHP. And then it's /ex8, and it's going to the first index page inside there, and it's connecting successfully. So it's running this function, it's connecting, and it is connecting. So if the connection is working, if it's not failed, it's going to say connected successfully. Now, if I did something wrong here, if I just put in, I'll just take off the in off admin and just mess up the username and see what happens here. And I'll just save it, just to see what would happen if we had something wrong here. And what you could do, you don't have to run it again, you could just refresh the page. And it says connection failed, access denied for user PHP myadmin. So it actually kind of says something about the user, access denied. And so that kind of gives us a little hint of what's happening. So we could kind of check that out. So then I could go back here and say, oh, I didn't put the N on PHP myadmin. And you know, you could try different things here, but we have enough to do. You don't have to go through and see if that doesn't work. As long as it works, we're in good shape, but we're going to put different code here. So we're off to a good start with this. This thing's connecting, and it's connecting to our correct page. So when we're in here, we're going to here. Now I'm going to refresh this, and it didn't refresh, and you know why? Because I didn't save it. So even though I made the change back to what it was, it's still in an unsaved state. So I have to make sure you save it each time before you go back and refresh it. So now when I go back and refresh it, it should say connected successfully. So we're good. We're connected here. We're not seeing anything yet because we didn't connect to a database. We just connected to the server. So we're not accessing a database yet. So if I go back to my instructions here, let's see where we are. We connected here, so we did all that. We connected to our running URL and port, so we did that already. And we saw our page, and we connected successfully. So I don't think we have to do anything else yet. We are going to go into PHP MyAdmin, but it looks like it says part 1 of video. Now, I had an older video where I went through that, but what we're going to do is we're going to stop here, and then we're going to connect to PHP MyAdmin and start using that. So I'm just going to take a break here. You could leave this stuff open. Now, this is open right now, and this is open right now. This is saved, so this page that we're working on. I'm even going to keep W3 Schools out because we're going to do some more with this. So all these tabs that I have out, I'm going to keep using. And what we're going to do next is connect to PHP MyAdmin and actually connect to a database, and we're actually going to have to install a database. We have some code to do that. So as long as you're connected here, and we're saying connected successfully, that's part 1. We're off to a good start. And we're going to keep working with this on part 2 in our next video.